Global warming is a fucking joke.
Not a joke.
Joke. I'm Tom Green. I'm Tom Green. I'm Tom Green. Look at me, I'm Tom Green.
That was unnecessary.
Tom Green doesn't believe in global warming. He knows the fucking deal.
Tom Green doesn't believe in
John Coleman, the creator of the Weather Channel, now a renowned meteorologist, doesn't believe in global warming, climate change. John Coleman created a petition. 35,000 PhD scientists petitions saying that there were facts that were thrown out that were never shown to the media. Because why? Because if they got out, people would start saying, no, climate change is not real. So what do you feel?
Climate change is real, obviously. Why? Because there's tsunamis happening in American Samoa that have not happened in hundreds of years.
Keep going.
And that's awkward.
I think that because the polar ice caps are melting, that climate is changing. Medieval warm period. We're going from 0 to the year 2000. Everything's normal. Medieval warm period. Down, 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 normal. Little ice age. Winter came. Up, 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 normal. And now they're just saying, whoop, it's going up, 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 temp's going up. Oh, and I forgot to mention, after Little Ice Age, Industrial Revolution. 200 years of massive amounts of pollution going into the world atmosphere. And, the climate didn't get hotter. The climate didn't get hotter then. It got colder. After the Industrial Revolution, the climate got colder. 200 years of hard polluting into the atmosphere. They say all that CO2 that's getting in the atmosphere must be doing something. Nope. Nope. It got colder. Go with Al Gore. Google images are my friend. Looking for the Al Gore graph. Calm down. Don't put your chickens all in one basket. That's what my grandma used to say to me. Don't put your chickens all in one basket. You know, don't do it. Bad. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure 90% of you out there watching this would know, but if anyone doesn't know, Al Gore took a little team down to the Arctic and they drilled away with a big old pole right down to the earth, going back hundreds and thousands of years. Data. What they did with this data was they did a few experiments on carbon and temperature in that ice, in those ice sheets. From the movie. Can't see it well. That one from the movie. It's on the internet. Look it up. The upper blue, the graph is CO2. The white is temperature. Everybody knows this theory. His theory is proved false. And if anybody else wants to believe into Al Gore, he's just misleading because he spent all this money on this thing, and Nobel Peace Prize nominee. When a scientist comes up and says, "Hey, you're just reading the data wrong. The data isn't even wrong. It's right. You're just reading the data wrong, putting it into a way where it looks in a way that will benefit you and your Nobel Peace Prize winning ass." Okay? CO2. Gore is saying that because CO2 is put into the atmosphere, the more CO2 in the atmosphere, the higher the temperature. Wrong. Wrong, wrong. Ask any scientist who isn't in his pocket, isn't retarded. Ask any scientist, just average scientist, say, look at this data, and he will tell you, he'll laugh in your face, okay? Because this graph shows CO2 going up, CO2 going down, CO2 going up, so does temperature, going up, so does temperature. But the problem with this graph is, and everybody knows this, some don't, the people who don't, that fuck you over. The CO2 going in the atmosphere is not what you should be looking at. You should be looking at the temperature first. You look at the temperature. When the temperature rises, following me? When the temperature rises, CO2 goes up. Not when CO2 goes up, temperature goes up. On his own graph, you'll see. On these studies, they were pulling out studies and experiments on this. You'll see that temperature goes up, CO2 goes up. But what you don't see, because the way they made this graph is the temperature is in front of the CO2. The temperature is slightly in front of the CO2. So that means only one thing. When the temperature goes up, the CO2 goes up. So now you're asking yourself, well, if the CO2 isn't causing the problem, how come the temperature is going up? Or if the temperature is going up, why is there more CO2? One example, when seawaters get more sunlight, when they get hotter, more flourishing, when a sea is flourishing, an ocean is flourishing, that creates more CO2. So all CO2 is this. Your breath, that's CO2. Plankton, all plant life in the oceans and sea emit CO2 on a daily basis. Give them more sunlight, give them more hotter temperatures, a better place to flourish, you're going to get a shitload more CO2 in the atmosphere. So what Coleman is saying against Al Gore with his Nobel Prize, you need temperature first and then you get the CO2. Okay? CO2 comes from, it comes from the cattle, it comes from plants, it comes from trees, it comes from, where else does CO2 come from? Volcanoes. Permafrost is one of the largest producer of CO2. And it's laughable that people are getting their panties in such a bunch over this. Temperature heats up, makes life flourish, more life equals more CO2, and that's what he's seen in that graph, not more CO2 coming in the world somehow by more flourishing CO2, creating more CO2, and then the temperature changes because of that. No, the temperature goes up, makes all the shit happen, then obviously there's going to be an out product of CO2 by all the plankton and stuff. Show me your boobs.
Can I just say I went to Applebee's today and I got the worst food ever, and they, just so you know, don't go to Applebee's.
1,000 years. You can't see that. Anyways, this is a medieval warm period in Little Ice Age. The year is 1000. The start of the medieval warm period is 1000. It peaks at about 1250, and then it comes back down to 1500. Right? Then the Little Ice Age starts in 1500. About 1700, this lowest point of the Little Ice Age, and then it evens out, goes back to about even 1900s, it evens out. So in the 1900s, 1945, 1920, Industrial Revolution starts. Temperatures were all equal with what they should be with those periods. Hot when they should be, cold when they shouldn't be. It's just the fucking seasons. So now when we have this huge amount of CO2, carbon, coming into the atmosphere from Industrial Revolution, 1920s, all the way from 1900s to 1945, right after the war, right? We're producing so much CO2. After 1945, going by these graphs, going by what all these people are saying, carbon makes the world hotter, makes the climate change. It didn't happen. It did not happen. Proof. There is proof. Proof that you can actually go into a store or go into a library and look at the proof, look at a graph, and you can see it. It's right there. Proof that more carbon in the atmosphere does not mean higher temperatures. Now, if there were a higher temperature, right now, people would be screaming, "Oh my god, it's the carbon, we got a cabin tax. Stop it, we're all gonna die, our children, the polar bears are gonna be sitting with our children, drinking tea and biscuits." No. If that happens, it's from something else. The sun might fucking explode, for all we know. But what that industrial period proves to us is that after 1945, temperatures went down normally. If CO2 is such a problem, temperatures would have risen substantially. But they didn't. Can you explain that to me?